This program was made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
At IHM VCU, we've always been here for you. You are and always will be our top priority. We care about your financial health, and we are here. IHM VCU is a proud supporter of WQPT.
Public Affairs programming on WQPT is brought to you by the Singh Group at Merrill, serving the wealth management needs of clients in the region for over 35 years.
Paying disabled workers a higher wage and getting ready for everyone to turn Irish in the cities. We're days away from St. Patrick's Day festivities. In a moment, we talk with one of the organizers from the St. Patrick's Society about what's in store. But first, fair wages. For years, businesses have been able to pay disabled workers less than the minimum wage. It was seen as an incentive to hire the disabled who may otherwise be unable to find work. But that all is changing under the new Illinois Dignity in Pay Act that removes what's called the sub-minimum wage for the disabled in the state. But it may come with some consequences. We're joined by the head of the Arc of the Quad Cities, Executive Director Michael Glanz. Michael, thank you for joining us first off. I appreciate you being here. Let's talk about the Dignity in Pay law. In many ways, the Arc of the Quad Cities has already trailblazed this area, so it doesn't really impact you.
No, yeah, currently Dignity in Pay, although it is a transformative law that we are very supportive of, it doesn't have many direct impacts on the Arc of the Quad Cities area because we already eliminated some minimum wage a couple years ago. And we're really proud of the work we did around doing that. We're proud of employing people at minimum wage or above in really quality jobs, and we're proud of everything we've done. But then we're very supportive of the Dignity in Pay Act and what it does to really sunset an unfair employment practice across the state of Illinois where people with disabilities were able to earn less than the minimum wage, which really then kind of sets policy directive that people with disabilities are maybe less than or shouldn't earn the same as other people. And so we really applaud the advocacy around that. We applaud the highlighting people with disabilities, and they should be making the same minimum wage as anyone else in the country or in the state of Illinois. And so we're really happy to see the Dignity in Pay Act and its passage. We actually got to go and see it signed by the governor of Illinois, that final bill, and see it signed and really see that landmark time when Illinois can phase out that practice of sub-minimum wage.
The real concern, of course, and you've heard it, and you've had to deal with it as you transition over the last 2 years, is that it may reduce the number of opportunities for those with disabilities. In other words, employers, instead of having 3 people, might have 2. Did you see that?
We did. So as we made a transition, we had to focus on quality jobs over necessarily the quantity of jobs. So we do currently, although the Arc of the Quad Cities area has maintained that about 20% of our workforce is a person with a disability, and we've been able to, in certain pockets, actually grow our employment. We did see in our traditional business enterprise, or QC Flex, that there was a decrease in employment. However, we saw really great quality outcomes in the people that were employed. They're making a lot more money. They're able to spend and buy things that they want to get. They're having much more economic impact. And then we're actually seeing that we're a model employer, that it's not just people that are necessarily served by the Arc of the Quad Cities area, but we're getting people that are maybe getting services from other organizations as well are coming to work for us because we're such a great employer in our business enterprises. So what we did see is that we did reduce the number of people that were employed, but then many of those people that were earning maybe less than a minimum wage or earning less money, it was not necessarily about the money they were earning that was making them happy, but it was the engagement and the activity of having a job and having purpose in life. And so what we've had to focus on is building purpose that's maybe not necessarily tied to employment for everyone, or finding them community employment where their skills really match and they can be productive in that employment. So it's kind of a both and approach for those people that are maybe no longer employed at the Arc of the Quad Cities area. But we found great volunteer opportunities for people. We love it. We work with a bunch of nonprofit partners in the Quad Cities area that have really welcomed our individuals so that they can find purpose and meaningful in their and meaning in their lives, and by giving back really to the community still by volunteering. Or then we've found a number of people community jobs as well.
Well, and as we said, you've been transitioning over the last 2 years without the dignity and pay law being put in effect. Now that it is being put in effect and is going to be phased in statewide, have other groups across the state contacted you to find out your successes and perhaps the lessons you learned?
Yes, we have. So other agencies have really reached out because we're seen as a leader that recently transitioned away from paying sub-minimum wage. And so we've been talking to different agencies across the state of Illinois. We've held open houses at our place of business, our QC Flex business enterprise, where we kind of hosted people, let them kind of tour, let them see what we've done, let them see the new box cutting machines that we've purchased, the new printing machines that we purchased, the new assembly lines that we created that all sped up productivity of people with disabilities so they can earn that higher wage. And then we continue to do things of reaching out through different conferences, presenting, kind of sharing our story across the state to ensure that really all agencies can succeed in the elimination of 14C. And then I think we've also had a unique opportunity. Part of that legislation is, and what I love about this dignity and pay and why I think it is really great transformative piece of legislation is it focused on eliminating paying sub-minimum wage, but then it also focused on creating infrastructure for those agencies to be successful. So there's grants out there to help these agencies transform their services. Would have been helpful for the ARC while we were doing it, but I think I'm very hopeful for our friends and other agencies that they can take that money and use it to transform their services. And then it's also created a lot of workforces and task forces that are really built to ensure that the outcomes that this bill intended, which is actually that we increase community competitive employment for people with disabilities, is the outcome that we see. So that we don't just see less people working, but that we actually see more people working. And those task forces are looking at then what resources are needed that the state needs to provide to ensure providers and people with disabilities are successful in finding employment opportunities. Also, what system transformation initiatives need to occur. So maybe the state needs to do business a little bit differently of how it promotes people, it helps promote people with disabilities as great hires for companies, how it reaches out to it through its statewide network, of employers, how it employs people itself, and how maybe it kind of engages with people with disabilities to become state employees as well. And then also, and just kind of really ties and makes sure the system is all working together, that when any person with a disability at kind of any stage in their life says, you know what, I want to work, I want to be a productive citizen, that they can enter and kind of get that help from anyone and be told the right information.
Of course, we're a border community bordering Iowa. Illinois minimum wage at $15 an hour. $7.25 is the Iowa minimum wage. What type of challenge is that, actually?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it did. So right when we decided we were going to eliminate sub-minimum wage at the Arc of the Quad Cities area is really when those increases to minimum wage in Illinois
increases,
started to happen, to really phase in that $15 an hour. So it made it a little bit more difficult for us on our journey to do that. But at the end of the day, I think it's been a success for us. We've continued to be able to pay that higher minimum wage. We changed it really challenged us, again, to be just way more efficient, to invest in different machinery, to invest in the production lines and things of that nature to make sure that we could pay that higher minimum wage. And then even when we're out in business, so we live in the Quad Cities community, and we can help people, and we've helped people get jobs or community jobs on both the Iowa and the Illinois side. And I would say that rarely do we have people, when we're helping them get jobs on the Iowa side, do we have them saying, oh, I want to work for $7.25. They're looking for higher wages over there as well, and really expecting those higher wages. And so I think it hasn't affected us too much, or that different minimum wage. Because I think that the jobs do exist even in Iowa that are paying higher than $7.25 for people with disabilities, because our people can be very productive and very good employees at a lot of different companies.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, because I mean, you have tried to reach out through the community to different businesses to point out the benefits of employing disabled people. What is your pitch to a company that's going, I'm not sure I can handle that?
Well, I think our pitch is always to figure out, so what is the need at that company? So maybe is there jobs that they're struggling to fill? Is there places where they're having constant turnover? Is there places that they can maybe pull off a piece of the job that someone doesn't like and that they don't like doing on their daily basis, but then a person with a disability could come in and do that and actually fully love that job and love what they're doing and show up every day to do it. And that's when we pitch the people with disabilities. I mean, oftentimes when we find that good match, a person with a disability may work for a company for longer than most people work for companies these days. The turnover is much lower usually with the people that we serve, and the job matches that we find, they'll stay in those jobs the 10, 20, 30, 40 years with the companies and really have loyalty to those employers that took a chance and hired them, and then they show up on a day-to-day basis, and then they get to know and sometimes are more productive than the new hire that's just learning the job. And so I think there's all sorts of benefits, and usually you have a better workplace culture when you do focus on that inclusion and having people with disabilities as part of your workforce, because it just kind of helps it make sure that you're a company that's giving back, you're a company that values everyone.
And you were saying that it's smaller companies, even mom and pop shops, that seem to be more receptive to the prospect of hiring those that are disabled.
Yeah, I think those medium-sized businesses, those kind of smaller operations are more flexible. And so they're able to incorporate the people with disabilities or hire the people with disabilities, incorporate it into their workplace culture a little bit easier and make those little changes. So if they need to maybe just change how they share the schedule with that person to ensure that they understand when their hours are scheduled, when they get there, if they have to make little changes because of the bus schedules or something. One of the biggest barriers for the people we serve is the transportation to and from work. And so making some of those adjustments of when they need a person to make sure that that person can be successful. And that usually happens at our medium-sized businesses or those smaller businesses where they're more adaptable and flexible.
Unemployment rate is at very low levels right now. Does that make it more difficult as well, that perhaps there's not as many jobs out there?
I think it makes it a little bit more difficult when there's low unemployment, because then there's a lot of people going for those jobs, and so there's just competition of when the jobs are open. We do see, but again, I think we've got great hardworking people. They just happen to have disabilities, and so I think it's about finding those right matches anywhere, and it can kind of happen in any unemployment climate. So yes, sometimes when unemployment's high or when when employers are struggling to find people, and I still think even though unemployment's low, we still hear from a lot of employers that some of their frontline jobs, they can't get enough people in those jobs. They are struggling to hire, and especially those frontline jobs. And that's where a lot of our people with disabilities succeed, and then can be more consistent and be a consistent hire and have longevity hire for those employers.
We are seeing a lot of talk about federal cutbacks throughout the federal government. How do you think that's going to impact those that are helping disabled citizens find valuable work?
I think it'll impact unseen of how it's going to impact that finding impactful work and finding jobs for people with disabilities. I do worry that sometimes there's been a lot of talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion's always been a core component of the message around hiring people with disabilities, and so the uncertainty of what some of those conversations may bring is concerning for us. We as an agency and as an employer that supports people with disabilities, we're always, the thing we're the most concerned about and looking at federally is to ensure that we protect Medicaid. We really need to protect Medicaid. That's a lifeline for a lot of the people we serve and the people looking for employment. So even a lot of employable people with disabilities, they may use a wheelchair, and it's Medicaid that helps them get out of bed every morning. It's Medicaid that helps them use the restroom. It's Medicaid that helps them with getting their meals and eating. However, they can still be productive members of society and have jobs and really out in the community.
Is that critically important for you to spread that message? I mean, to speak for those that can't speak for themselves in a way.
Correct. I think it's extremely important for everyone. So it's extremely important for myself. It's extremely important for the people with disabilities to be sharing messages of how important Medicaid is to them and how it really helps support them in their daily lives. So it's not just it's there when you need it. It's not just a handout, but it really helps and makes someone productive in their daily lives every day. It's that getting up, ensuring that you have the supports needed to be successful, and it all flows through Medicaid.
And once again, dignity and pay, now the law of the land in Illinois. We're seeing it in more and more states. Do you think that someday that might be a national trend?
I believe, yes, I believe so. I think that I am very proud that Illinois was the 18th state to join elimination of sub-minimum wage across the state, and that I'm very proud to be here in Illinois and to support that legislation, and that we are kind of continue to be a leader then. But I think we'll eventually hit that kind of tipping point with 18 and then 19 and more states, and then we'll probably see some federal action to eliminate 14C and sub-minimum wage. And I'd actually say this is one of those topics that has been across the nation pretty bipartisan in nature, that people kind of in all walks of life understand that there is a component of allowing someone to be paid less than minimum wage isn't a boost to anyone's self-confidence or a boost to anyone's self-worth when you're paying them less than the person that might be working right next to them.
Our thanks to the Arc of the Quad Cities Executive Director, Michael Glanz. Now, in a moment, preparations for St. Patrick's Day. But first, some of the great events ready for you in the cities right now. Thanks to Visit Quad Cities.
Check out the things to do this week in the Quad Cities. Start off with heading to Quad City Arts to see the Rock Island Gallery on March 4th. Then you can watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade at the Putnam Museum on March 6th. Next, check out the Mississippi Valley Quilters Guild exhibition at the Figge Art Museum on March 7th. Also on March 7th, you can go to the Antique Spectacular Vintage Market at the QCCA Expo Center. And finally, you can watch Quad City Storm Wrestling Night on March 8th at the Vibrant Arena at the Mark. For more events like these, check out our events calendar at visitquadcities.com.
It's said that for one day every year, everybody is Irish. But the celebration of St. Patrick in the cities takes up more than one day, and it's more than just a parade. We talked with the president of the St. Patrick Society of the Quad Cities, Joseph Patrick Dooley. Well, thank you for joining us. Everyone talks about the parade. That's the first thing everyone talks about. It is what, 39?
Grand Parade 39, and it's Grand Parade. I try to brand it that way. I don't care for St. Patrick's Day Parade because we don't always march on the 17th. Sure. So if anybody outside the area, they know it's March 15th this year.
The largest bi-state, only?
As far as we know, the only bi-state parade in the country.
Parade. Mm-hmm. And the coldest one, if you're trapped on the Centennial Bridge, which I have been repeatedly.
Yes, and in 22 and 23 Arctic temperatures, it was the coldest ever.
There's no windbreak up there.
No. 2012, it was 83 degrees.
Last
year was 60.
And we've seen it also canceled due to snow. Not that that's going to happen, but I mean, a little bit of everything is happening.
We've never canceled due to weather. The only year we canceled in 20 because of COVID.
Right.
And then in 21 we postponed it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And
yes, you're right.
We had a special parade in August, and it was hot.
Yeah, but I remember the postponement. I'm sorry for saying cancellation, and it was inclement weather.
Yeah.
But it is not all of St. Patrick's celebration, and I think that's so important. So let's start backing up a little bit because you've got so many events before the parade.
Well, the parade is the culmination. I look at it as the celebration of, I call it our American Irish heritage. Celebrate family and history and contributions and the hardships. But on Friday, we have our gathering of the Clan Luncheon, which is at the River Center, and there we will introduce our scholarship winner. This year, we're able to award 2 scholarships.
That's excellent. It hasn't been that way for a while.
It's usually 1.
Right.
We have had 2, but it's been several years, but we've had several anonymous donations that help push us towards 2 scholarship awards this year. But we also introduce our Irish Mother of the Year and the Grand Marshal. That's at our luncheon on Friday the 14th. And then, of course, Saturday, with the parade.
Yeah. And then the post-parade party, which is relatively new. I know it's been around a while, but relatively new.
Well, the bash has been every parade. We were down at the Cow Ballroom, from 86 was the first parade, and we moved to the River Center, I think it was 2013. We've been there since. So that's a tremendous party, and that is part of our fundraising effort because, our membership, if you purchase a $20 annual membership, that's your admission to the bash, but we sell memberships at the door, but that helps keep us going year to year. We're 1 year at a time with our fundraising.
So tell me about the St. Patrick's Society, because it is in existence all year round. It's not just that 1 week.
Yeah. Right now, we're still only the events in March, but in the past, we used to have an Ehrenfest in August and September, and there were times where we would do occasional things throughout the year, maybe bring in a band or something. But March is our biggest event. And but yes, our board meets throughout the year, and we have letters going out, newsletters going out to our members. So we're active year round, but basically building for the event in March.
Yeah, and that's an all-year project.
It is. After the parade, we take a breather, but you're always thinking, and how do we improve, and what did we need to do, what didn't work this time, and then starting in the fall, start gearing up again, and by November, we're doing the paperwork with the cities and applications, and we have to work with Davenport and Rock Island, which they're great partners, and we have to work with the state of Illinois. Rock Island handles that for us to get use of the bridge, and which when we get to it, there is a slight change on the bridge traffic this year and on the parade route. But
what's the change?
Well, first of all, with the projects going on in downtown Rock Island,
right.
Our route would take straight down 4th Avenue. We used to jog at 20th Street, down 3rd to 17th. This year, we're going straight down 4th Avenue to 17th and north to 2nd. Yeah, and then 2nd to the bridge. Now, with the bridge traffic this year, there is a change. In the past, we had always, the police departments had shuttled traffic back and forth between the two states on the Illinois-bound lanes. This year, it's strictly Illinois-bound traffic. If they get on at the on-ramp at Gaines and 2nd in Davenport, it's strictly to Illinois. Iowa-bound traffic will have to be detoured to the Government Bridge or 280. But, we're only talking a couple hours,
And it's tradition.
Yeah, you can't get mad at the Irish. Well, you can, but we won't let you.
But not on that day.
Not on that day.
There have been so many great people associated with St. Patrick's Society, and that have given their blood and their soul to make sure that the Irish heritage continues. And I want to take time to talk about John Scally, who we lost, I believe, in November.
December 11th.
December, I'm sorry, thank
Yeah.
you. Long committed to the St. Patrick's Society in this parade.
Yes, he was there at the beginning, working with the founders, and John was our 3rd president. He was on the board all these years from 86 to 24, and he chaired 27 parades, and that's a job, just all the coordinating and, just everything. Just making it work, and it's a tremendous job. And he's the father of our Irish Memorial at 2nd and Harrison. That was an endeavor that it's just magnificent. If you haven't been there, go down and see it.
It's a powerful statement.
Yes. Yes.
With the father looking one way and the mother looking the other.
Yeah, the father is looking forward to the future, coming to America, and the mother is looking behind at what she's leaving in Ireland, and the child is just kind of bewildered. But Lou Quaintance, native of Silvis, I believe, East Moline, he's a famous sculptor, and he put that statue together for us. The 2 large stones behind the statue are mined, or quarried, I should say, from Ireland, and are in place there. So it's a nice tribute to the Irish Americans that came over, and now to our American Irish.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. It's a great parade. It's a great party. And the fact that it is bi-state Davenport as well as Rock Island. And if you've been in the parade, when you're coming down the bridge into Davenport, that swarm of kids just in that little area, or the huge amount of people in Rock Island in the downtown area.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a huge population that comes out for this parade. It's kind of a unifying moment for the Quad Cities.
All the work, all the blood, sweat, and tears, which I don't want to quote an Englishman on that, excuse me, but it's all worth it when you see the faces of the kids especially. I mean, they're just out there and they're just grinning and smiling and having a great time. And that goes for the adults too. We're probably acting a little bit like kids, but it's a great time.
But the other thing that's fantastic is when you do have the families with their floats.
Yeah.
And are you finding still enough families doing that?
Oh,
because
yes.
that really seems to be the heart of it.
Yes. That's what the parade's all about. We
Right.
want Irish-themed entries, whether they be family walking groups or they build a float, and some of the creativity that goes into some of these, it's just amazing. I mean, they've got to spend maybe thousands of dollars, and who knows how many hours involved in these projects. I mean, we've seen replicas of the Centennial Bridge and Notre Dame campus and railroads. And
Very clever, very
yes,
creative.
Yes, it is.
What do you want people to take away from this? Because it's more than just the parade. I mean, the importance of the Irish heritage here in the Quad Cities.
That's just it. I mean, and every group that's come to America has contributed and helped build the country and the Quad Cities. And this is just our way of saying, okay, here's the Irish contribution. A lot of people don't realize in this area, in Iowa and Illinois, the demographic, I mean, it's tight German and Irish, and the English are third. So the Irish are a big part of this community. What amazed me once, I went down to the Lincoln site in Springfield, and they have a signage there in old Springfield, I guess you call it, the Lincoln sites. And they gave a breakdown of all the nationalities that occupied Springfield at the time. And they were young, but you look at the graph and the Irish are like this, and then everybody else just trails off. I mean, it was tremendous Irish population in Springfield, and that was throughout the two-state area in the Midwest. So I think overall the Irish people can, about a sixth of the nation can say they have Irish heritage in them. So you're talking tens of millions of people.
Is it okay that we're all Irish for a day?
Yes, yes. Everyone can be Irish on the day. You'll see all groups, and we love it. We love when everybody comes in and celebrates. It's like Cinco de Mayo, like the 4th of July, you know, the Native American observations, Columbus Day, which I don't want to get in trouble, but, you know, it's everybody contributed. And March 15th is our day to show that.
Our thanks to the president of the St. Patrick's Society of the Quad Cities, Joseph Patrick Dooley. On the air, on the radio, on the web, on your mobile device, and streaming on your computer, thanks for taking some time to join us as we talk about the issues on the cities.
At IHM VCU, we've always been here for you. You are and always will be our top priority. We care about your financial health, and we are here. IHM VCU is a proud supporter of WQPT.
Public Affairs programming on WQPT is brought to you by the Sing Group at Merrill, serving the wealth management needs of clients in the region for over 35 years. This program was made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.